Yo, man, squad, are y'all trying to get in on that Secretversary Super Drop 2023? Well, we got the link everywhere. We got it on the screen, the description, the comments, and rumors say that if you go into the bathroom, shut all the lights off, play some spooky music, and say Mana Squad 13 times, you can see the link there as well. Just remember, a wise man once said, your opponents might get mad at you for playing powerful stuff, but they'll never be mad if you just play a bunch of shiny stuff. Pretty sure Shakespeare said that. Yo, welcome back to One More Mana. My name is Derik, and today we are getting into my top 5 favorite Secret Lair arts of all time, which is the last 4 years. In an insane sentence to say that Secret Lairs have been here for 4 years. If you, I definitely voting wise would have been like, okay, yeah, maybe 2 years, 2.5 years tops. You could have convinced me of a year because you know what, maybe it's just been a very long year, but 4 years is wild to think about. Especially, you know, for me, I guess for as long as I've been playing Magic, their Secret Lairs have really been around more than they haven't, which again, crazy to think about. Well, looking back though, there have been so many. I know making the list for this video, my first thought is, okay, like I have strong opinions, finding 5 cards I love, super easy. And then like I went through and just on Scryfall going through and then like bam, 43 cards. And I was like, okay, I need to cut this down a little bit. Okay, I cut a whole bunch, okay, easily down to 5, ended up with like 27. And it reminded me of the process of building a commander deck where you somehow start with like 80 cards. And then you're like, okay, let's make some cuts. Somehow you have like 130. And you're like, okay, let's make more cuts. Now you got like 170. And it turns into this like 6-hour process of somehow the list growing despite the fact that you think you're cutting cards. It's a mystery of science, but it was the same effect that was going on here. But let's get into this list, because one thing that I love about Secret Lairs is I am someone who really cares about the theme of a deck. I need everything to be incredibly on theme. So you can use an example for one of my personal decks. I have a zombie deck with Grimy Buckets leading the deck. And for the longest time, I didn't feel comfortable with Kindred Discovery in the deck because of the fact that there was a little fishy person. There's a merfolk on the art, and even some of the newer art had like birds and stuff, and I was like, I can't do that. It feels like a flavor fail until I was able to get an altar sleeve with like a zombified merfolk, and then I was like, okay, now I feel better. I very much care about my decks working, but if the flavor isn't there, if something feels too off flavor, I just can't feel the joy that I need by playing the card. So Secret Lairs are kind of made, I guess, for weirdos like me, who is just like very much like, I don't care if I have 12 copies of this card. I need specific copies of each for each deck where the vibe is right. It needs to pass the vibe check or else I can't put it in the deck. And yeah, I didn't realize how much that was the case until I started looking through my decks and was like, oh wow, I really have spent way more time and effort making sure my art coordinates than any sort of actual strategic winning. And that might say a lot about my Magic skills there. So we'll get into this list and start. Obviously, in every top 5 list, I have to cheat and put an honorable mention because like it's my list, so I can just throw a 6 card on a top 5. And the honorable mention, the only reason I'm putting this as an honorable mention because it's not actually in a deck of mine. I just have the card because I love it. And it's from the Look at the Kitties Secret Lair. So obviously why I would love it. And Lord Windgrace. This card, in the process of trying to make a brew, I have no interest in Lord Windgrace at all as a card. Honestly, I don't really enjoy the way it works. I don't like Planeswalkers as commanders a lot. It seems very just like value generically good. But the art in the Secret Lair one on the screen reminds me of my little lovable demon Barkevius. The vibe, like definitely my cat, Barkevius Barkleton, or Barkevius Barkleton III if you want the full government. Just that is the same vibe. Like that's how he sees himself. Like the royalty, the necklace, the little staff thingy. Like this is exactly how he views himself, but also like incredibly powerful. And like Barkevius is the commander of this household. He knows it. I unfortunately know it. And did I say he knows it? Because he's very aware of it. This card just makes me so happy. The list I'm actually working on for this it's in the process. I want to make a goblin based deck with this card as the commander, because to me, Barkevius Barkleton's a little chaos goblin. So it just seems to fit, talk about thematic. So yes, this card makes me incredibly happy. Couldn't put it on the list yet because it's not technically in a deck of mine, but it just makes me too happy not to at least mention on the list. So we'll get into the ones that I'm actually actively playing in deck. Let's get into the real number 5 on this list though. Number 5 on this list is Life from the Loam from the Restless in Peace Secret Lair. The art by Dan Mumford is just perfect and so spooky. I love Life from the Loam is one of my favorite cards ever. I will force this just in just about any deck. Y'all know lands decks are my favorite. Legacy Lands is my favorite deck across any format ever. Just love it so much. I love if lands can get worked into modern decks. I'll even watch some standard videos if lands are involved. It's so much fun. I love the fact that your resource system can become this way to win. And when I say lands decks, I have very little interest in landfall. Not a big, I don't really enjoy landfall, but I love lands in the sense of using that Dark Depths and Thespian stage and wastelanding specific strategic lands and doing all of these cool resource denial strategies and using your own resources as an offensive game pieces. Just wonderful. And I feel like Life from the Loam for me represents that so awesome in Commander because you just keep getting these lands to use over and over. But specific to this one, I always have an active Halloween deck at any given time, and it's almost always in green black. Now, this Commander's rotated from Hogak to Babala Saga, and kind of it's always evolving, but I needed the perfect art for it. This deck, more than almost any of my other decks, the vibe has to be perfect for the cards I put in there, because if it's not spooky, it just feels like it's in the wrong deck. And this one just fit it perfectly. It's just got a grave, obviously, the ravens, the whole ambiance of this art piece is just perfect for the vibe I want in that deck. And yeah, this has made it so I already put it in almost every green deck, but any that didn't have it, yeah, they have it now because this one is just too perfect not to run in more decks. Now, number 4, I mentioned Wasteland. I mentioned liking land, so I guess we can expand on that more. Number 4 is Wasteland from the Mark Poole Secret Lair. So this is one of the artist series, and looking at what that final 40 was that I was looking at, yeah, I'm a sucker for artist series. I'll just say that. I love Wasteland in general. Look, this is my time for a PSA. Run more targeted land destruction. I don't care how much you have, add to it. Targeted land, especially now we got all the new ones in Lost Caverns and Ixalan with all the flippy god things. Run more land destruction. Targeted land destruction is okay. Do it all the time. Strip mine me all you want. I'll be happy. Probably. This Wasteland, though, it talks about my love of lands decks. The fact that it's the Library of Alexandria in the art, just buried in the desert sand, is so cool. One of the things I love with art is I feel like a lot of Magic art depicts the lead up to battles or the action of the battle. For me, I really enjoy art of the aftermath, of kind of years later, that post-apocalyptic type vibe. Academy Ruins is a great example of something that fits that same vibe of years down the road. It's almost like nature's taken back over in this way. And this Wasteland art just speaks to that perfectly. Not to mention, it's iconic to think of basically the Library of Alexandria getting wastelanded. It's just so perfect. And yeah, decks wise, I mentioned the last one's in my Halloween deck. I have this Wasteland in my Titania deck, and it's just perfect. It makes me happy. So even if I'm stuck just keeping the Wasteland there and I don't want to bully any of my friends and Wasteland their stuff, just getting to stare at the art makes me happy as I wait for the right time to blow up their lands and hope they still love me. Now at number 3, this one is kind of goes back into my childhood. We'll talk about it a little bit. It's the Sliver Hive Lord art from the Thomas Baxa Secret Lair. So this one is super cool looking. I love, this is a hot take here that people won't like, I really love the weird representations of slivers. So I remember when slivers kind of looked like Predator at one point. It was like a one-off thing. I loved it. Realized it's not popular opinion. Thought it was super cool. I love this take on slivers where it still has the traditional slivers, but the Hive Lord itself has this crazy, it reminds me of the brain bug from Starship Troopers, if anyone has seen that. I watched that movie probably 200 times a week as a child. I was obsessed with that movie, and it just gives me this gives me very strong Starship Trooper vibes without, with still having its own sliver identity. It doesn't feel like it's copying it at all. It's literally its own uniquely sliver monstrosity. And as someone who have a sliver deck, love my sliver deck, I love finding unique arts and ways to try to individualize it, because it feels like every sliver deck's the same. And something like this is a great opportunity to have that unique take on it. And it really speaks to, I think, individualizing the Hive Lord from the rest of the slivers. And for me, it just makes me that much happier to make my slivers indestructible. And again, make my friends a little sad in the process. Now, at number 2, the number 2 or I guess my number 2 favorite art, number 2 best art, because obviously this is an objective list, I'm gonna talk about Vault of Whispers, and this is from the Miral Insanity. I had to double check that because I always want to call it Miral Insanity. Miral Insanity Secret Lair. This artifact land is just so beautiful. I run this in my Flame War deck, and the reason why it fits the vibe so perfectly. So Flame War is obviously one of the Transformers cards, and it's a commander that I absolutely adore. But it brings me back to the time when I was a kid watching, you know, the animated Transformer shows and all that, getting all super into it. And the vibe of this Vault of Whispers brings me back to feels like it's like a Super Nintendo game. I feel like I'm playing like a really old Final Fantasy and I'm going up to like some boss's lair. And to me, that is so like simpatico with what that deck what I want to feel when I play that deck. So getting to just take one of the random artifact lands that's in there and just make me feel that type of way, just drawing a land, it is wonderful. It is so beautiful, and it's got a spooky vibe. It really does feel like a spooky boss lair in a Final Fantasy game, and it takes me back to kind of that same period that I want to enjoy when I'm playing that deck. It is beautiful, and yeah, I love it. I really would love to see more of that art style because it's super unique, and yeah, it's perfect. Number 1, this was despite how hard it was to make this list, the number 1 stayed constant the whole time. This is one of the, just when this one was printed, I think it's what made me the most excited about Secret Lairs and really turned my opinion from like, okay, it's a lot, it's kind of overwhelming, to yes, this is perfect, this is why they're here. It's another artist series, and it's the artist series Secret Lair from Miral Villeneuve. Oh my gosh. Just first of all, like, we're going to talk, I didn't realize how much of my time was spent specifically on my Titania deck, but I guess there's a lot. The art for Titania is one of my favorite pieces of Magic art ever, period. And one of the things I love to do is I talk about vibe matching for my decks. I love to find arts that either are from the same artist or from similar art styles that kind of match that vibe that the artist gives off with their art to tell that cohesive story. And there's 2 specific cards in this Secret Lair. The Elvish Mystic, which is just, oh my gosh, the art on this is just so perfect. It's that mix of, what I love about Titania's art is it gives off a mix of spooky but like elegant and beautiful, which is just so hard, I think, to pull off. It's just a perfect mix. And this card does the exact same thing with the Elvish Mystic, holding this like terrifying looking skull. Oh my, it is amazing. But that's not all. There's more in that Secret Lair, because specifically, and I am a monster for saying this, I also kind of love basic lands in Secret Lairs. Don't throw things at me. I've become the monster over time. I'm now someone who doesn't match my basic lands in monocolored decks. I was always that person who had to match every land in every deck. And the second someone played a mismatched basic, I was sitting there being all high and mighty and why are you doing that? Now, all my monocolored decks now play mismatching basics, and I've started wanting to do this thing, I guess, just evolving layers of not wanting to upgrade decks but change the cards constantly anyway. I want to start telling stories with my basics in my monocolored decks of like all the different, I'll use Titania again as an example, for all the different forests, talking about like all the different landscapes and almost telling a story with the vibe of each of the forests that I play, trying to individualize the deck in this way. And while there's a lot of different basic lands and Secret Lairs and everything to pick from, the forest from the Miral Villeneuve Secret Lair is just so perfect because it does fit that same vibe of what Titania is giving off. And it just makes me so happy every time I draw it. And I think being able to both match, whether it's art style, but specifically being able to get additional art from some of these artists and just have it, to me, upgrade my deck in flavor ways that I really never thought was going to be a thing, has been wonderful. And yeah, for me, that was an easy number 1. That is going to wrap it up for this week's video. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. Yeah, I've really come around to the aspect of Secret Lairs that it really allows me, I've learned with my decks, I don't necessarily always make the most unique card choices or pick commanders that allow me to just, some of my decks are going to look like my Titania deck might look really similar to other Titania decks, or my Slivers deck might look the same as most Slivers decks. But these really allow me to individualize decks in the way that I care. I want them to look different. I want the art and the vibe and everything to match how I feel when I play the deck. I want the tone to give off what I want to give off when I'm playing it. And going through this list made me realize just how much I care more about the art of my cards than really anything else. I already knew that, but yeah, it was such a fun experience. If y'all have any specific Secret Lair arts that y'all love that just speak to you feel like were printed for you, let me know down in the comments below. Hope everybody is excited for the Secretversary, getting again, just new art, which is just, to me, the best part of Magic. Well, let me know what y'all think. And until then, I will see y'all next time.